Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Cambodia Global Dialogue of Southeast Asia TV. Tonight we'll be talking about something that not many of us know what it is, although we can fall victim to many of these things, which is about cybercrime, cybersecurity, and what we can do, in fact, to better understand this sort of thing. Because, in the context of the Cambodia now in the ASEAN Economic Community, it's a lot of economic development, it's a lot of economic transaction, free flow of goods, services. So Cambodia is really opening up, to the region. We've been opening up to the world for a long time since we joined the WTO. But more and more, with the ASEAN Economic Community, we see the border barrier coming down, a greater flow of goods, greater flow of services, greater flow of capital, and our entrepreneur sector is also thriving. Mainly merger, acquisition, this sort of thing, which are the great side, the positive side of life. But there's also the other side that if we're not careful, we could fall victim, and this is not something that we want. And today I have a pleasure to have an expert, I like to call an expert, who can share with us some of what he views as the threat when it comes to cybersecurity and other security issues as it relates to the company. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Siphana.
Yes. Well, why don't I give you a few minutes just to let you set the stage a bit, your background, your company,
Sure.
And then from there we'll
Sure,
tackle
absolutely.
the issue. Yeah.
The name of my company is Lantium. We are based currently in Singapore and the United States.
Yes.
We're going to be opening an office here as well. And I started the business back in 1999 as basically managed services and consultancy. So basically providing IT support, server support, help desk, patches, all the usual stuff. And then about 4 years ago, I got together with a partner of mine who had a lot of experience in cybersecurity in the realm, working for the government, and said, Jeff, hey, come on out, let's do this type of work. There's really a need for this type of work everywhere. So let's get started with it. And that's what we've done. We've been focusing on cybersecurity for many years now.
Well, let's set the stage a bit, because we a lot of us just mention like that, as if we know about it. But
Exactly.
we just say, cybersecurity, what is it really? The physical security we know, right? You got to make sure the office is locked. You got to make sure you do some screening of make sure the keys there. I don't know. These are the physical side. But in this IT world, in this cyber internet, cyberspace, what is it?
Well, the analogy is quite good. Physical security, what you're trying to do is you're trying to protect thieves from breaking in and stealing equipment, or stealing gold or money or physical items.
Yes.
It's the same thing with the intangible items, the electronic items, the software, the data, the information, and often money these days isn't really printed at all anyway. It's numbers on a sheet somewhere. And that, of course, is a target for thieves. And these thieves will come in, they'll come in invisibly, sneak in to your businesses. You won't even know they're there. They may be there for a long time gathering this information and stealing it from you. And I think what people really don't understand is that there's a difference between IT people and security people. Basically, an IT department is responsible for patching systems, installing new systems, keeping the systems up and running. But they're not a security organization. They are not good at being able to keep intruders out or actually detect intruders. They're good at operating antivirus software and things like that.
Okay.
But that's not enough. You need a separate group of professionals that have their eye out, looking at sort of the security guards looking at the door. So if you picture IT people as the regular maintenance type staff that keep the machinery running, so to speak, we're the security guards.
That's what most of us, when we have an office, when we hire IT guy, we thought that the guy would keep our virus clean, from the computer. But this is not what we're talking about.
No, it's beyond that.
It's two separate fields. Right?
Exactly.
But build on the IT capability though.
Right, obviously. Just like your CFO his accounting department will use technology, the CISO will CISO.
Okay. Chief
Information Security Officer.
Information Security Officer, yeah.
And it's actually best when the CISO reports directly to the CEO and the board and not to the Chief Information Officer. Typically, two separate organizations.
Yes.
And they should have separate budgets. Now, the security budget usually isn't as large as the CIO's budget. It's usually anywhere from 10 to 14 or 15%, depending upon how mature your cybersecurity program is. But what is important is that it is recognized as something separate, and given the amount of resources that's required to keep an organization safe.
Yes. So I mean, for a country like Cambodia, which is quite young, I would say in terms of business, you have a lot of merger acquisition for some company. Is Cambodia a target when you're still young like that?
It is, because everybody has something of value, so somebody's going to want to take it. And it's not as big a target as, say, obviously the United States is number one. China, two, and then Russia. And also Vietnam is actually a huge target these days. If you look on some of the maps that you can pull up off the web out there, you'll see that Vietnam is a serious target these days. But it's just a matter of time before Cambodia grows up, attracts enough attention to where they are a target. And it's important, I think, that they start from the ground up and become educated to help prevent the problem before it is a problem.
Well, Jeff, give me some concrete example how you see this threat being translated, because for most of us, since we are not IT or savvy enough, we wouldn't know that it's a threat, right?
Right. So here's the thing. Often, particularly individual workers or small businesses are not the ultimate target, but they're often the initial target because they don't have the budget or the money to spend on a full cybersecurity program. But often they have access to customers of theirs that are. So say if you're a small company, but you service a large, more important company, you may have access to those systems. So the hacker will go in and try to infiltrate your system to see what access they can gain to the other system. They may not be interested in anything that you have other than the access, but that has value.
Okay. So it's really you are the bridge to something larger.
Exactly.
And that's why people don't pay attention, right?
That's right.
So what other thing that, a company, for example, right, what should they do in that case?
So they should ask themselves a few questions. They should ask themselves, are they at risk at any point? And they should ask these questions of a good security consultant who can take a look at their business and give an evaluation. And it doesn't need to be that expensive to do that, particularly for a small business. That if they don't have as much going on, for example, economically, then it doesn't take very long to say, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what your risk profile is, and these are some of the things that you can do to mitigate it. But if you don't have any idea or no program, then you're probably not in a good position. Because there's generally three types of companies. Companies that don't know they've been hacked. Companies that know they've been hacked. And companies that don't want to know they've been hacked.
Wow.
Because there's a lot of that out there.
The last part, I don't understand. The first part I understand. They don't know they've been hacked. Okay, nothing you can do about it, right?
Exactly. Because there is... I think a lot of businesses realize that if they are hacked, there is some financial loss potential. Whether they lose customers because they lost the customer's data, or whether they lose a contract because they were used to gain access to one of their large customers. So they'd rather say, well, I hope nobody finds out.
Yes. All right. Okay. So it's more from that transparency side that the customer would say, oh, well, it was not from me.
Right. Right.
Okay.
But these things can be traced back through forensics.
With forensic.
And that's one of the things that we do as well. We'll trace back and find out. You want to find out where the hacker came from.
Yes.
And how long was he there, and what did he take?
Yes. But Jeff, I'm glad you plan to set up your operation in Cambodia, because more and more, it's from sheer anecdotal, episode, right? You hear all the time, small business enterprise. Say, look, I just lost $50,000, $100,000. Not a lot, big sum. I mean, for multinational, it's no big deal. But for them, it's a lot, and they don't know what happened. They signed a contract. They thought it was an order. It turned out that when they wired the money, it went somewhere else. This sort of thing, So this is also part of the larger scam thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The biggest thing I see hitting small businesses these days is ransomware. Ransomware.
What is that?
Okay, this is where a hacker infiltrates your system and then encrypts your data, and then asks for 2 or 3 or more Bitcoin, for example, basically money, to release it.
To decrypt it.
Yeah, decrypt it.
Wow.
So we see that a lot.
Is that right? Yeah.
And that comes from almost...
So basically, you have no more, you cannot use your data anymore.
No.
Unless you pay them.
Unless you pay them. So your choice is to wipe your system and restore from backup, which is costly if you have the backup, which is another problem that small businesses have, is they don't have adequate disaster recovery either. So they're stuck. Sometimes we never recommend that they pay. Although I've seen some pay and get it decrypted, and I've seen some pay and get it partially decrypted, and some pay and more money is asked for it.
Wow. But it's quite interesting, because you see, even me, who is very involved in the development of the draft law on e-commerce, for example, we're very conscious of a lot of this technicality. But more than likely, because we are not involved in that particular specialized field, we would not know the extent on how convolute the scheme are. And what you just said is quite a mind-blowing example. Most people would never know that. But later on, I want to discuss more about how you can help advise on policy. Because at the end of the day, this sort of thing cannot be just an ad hoc client-to-client relationship. It has to have a certain legal and regulatory framework to enable, right? If you do forensic, how do you get the court to admit this sort of evidence, for example, right? It become an evidentiary rule, because our civil code, for example, if I can say, is do only recognize paper evidence, for example, that sort of thing,
So that's something that's changed in the United States over a while ago. They now accept obviously faxes, but scans and electronic versions of documents as legal documents and evidence.
Yes. But you are based in Singapore, okay? So you have operation in different places in ASEAN, that sort of thing. How advanced those countries in the area of cybercrime, anti-cybercrime?
Here's the thing.
Measure.
They have a small number of professionals who are very good and very advanced. The whole problem with Southeast Asia is the same problem in the United States and everywhere else. There are not enough of them.
Not enough.
There are so many threats, and they are so persistent, and they're quite innovative. And that's something we can discuss further, is the reason why you're right. It's not just I'll just do a security review or a compliance check, and then we're done. It's an ongoing educational process that has to happen within every business.
So how does Cambodia, as a small country, again I'm back to the very specific case of our country where, cyber development is quite recent. We don't have an e-commerce law. We don't have a cybercrime law yet. We do have a good telecom law, right, which is in place, which enable the regulation of telecom company and many other related services. In this area of cybercrime, you got to have a good legislative framework. Is that what it is? Is that what you see in other countries?
Absolutely. That is what is really driving our business in the United States, is the requirement for compliancy. Other than that, there's a lot of fatalism out there. People already believe they've been hacked, so they believe there's nothing they can do about it. They don't understand it, which is really not a good way to think about it. I mean, that's what the hackers want you to think.
Yes. So I think we're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, I want to look at this issue in three different levels. One is the policy. What can the government do to ensure that we have a good legislative framework? And then at the second level, which is at the meso level, which is in terms of institution, whether they are public or private or company, what sort of thing they should think of. And then the last one is at the micro level, which is us. We as entrepreneur, as a lawyer, as a citizen, we do have asset, tangible, non-tangible. How do we protect from this sort of thing? All right, we'll take a short break.
Very good. Thank you.
Jeff, okay, so let's start from the bottom. The top, and then we'll filter down, right? From a policy level, what do you see in ASEAN country? The sort of policy measure, the sort of legislative measure that country put in place. And we, since you're based in Singapore, we can start with the most advanced. I like to think Singapore is still the most advanced in 10 ASEAN country. What sort of step they're putting in place?
So they have a new cybersecurity law. They recognize that their current laws are not what is required.
Even Singapore? Even
in Singapore. So sometime middle of next year, it's expected that they will put out a new cybersecurity law that will basically, it's almost an educational process for businesses to say that here's the minimum of what you need to do in order to protect your data. And in addition to that, they also want to protect the consumer as well, so that if private individual information is stolen or leaked out, that the consumers are informed about it, so that they can take their own precautions, or in some cases the companies are liable to pay for credit monitoring and things like that.
Yes.
So it's important. However, often though, businesses will rely too much on that because that's not enough.
Yeah.
Usually the laws are basically the lowest common denominator.
Yes, as always.
They show some punishments, some fines to try to, of course, encourage businesses to do what needs to be done. But then often what a business will do is they'll say, hey, I had an audit done by these great companies, whatever, so I'm good. And you're not safe.
Because it's a least common denominator.
Exactly.
You do what is the law required.
It's almost like there's the thing. Well, I'm doing best practices. It's a common thing to say in the IT world.
Yes.
But when it comes to security, best practices is not enough. No, you have to do more and you have to do better.
Give me some of the good example where, in your definitional side of best practice, that is not enough.
So I'll give you an example. You may have for example, a cybersecurity strategy plan. However, it may only be performed or tested once a year. Or twice a year required by law. In reality, depending upon your threat level, you may need to have that tested 4 times a year, for example. And often it isn't as specific as to what is being done for training. And that comes down to the individual users.
Yes.
Because when it comes to cybersecurity, it's not necessarily a technical problem, but it's a people problem. And
Interesting.
And it requires every single person to be aware of it.
Yes.
So if you have someone who leaves a password out,
Yes.
or writes it down somewhere,
Yes.
I mean, these are kind of some basic things that a lot of people, don't know or do know at some point. But it really takes a constant educational process, particularly as new threats come up. And the ones, for example, from phishing attacks. Like I mentioned, the ransomware. Most ransomware comes in through a phishing attempt. So you may...
How does phishing work?
So phishing works like this. So, Siphana, say you and I are friends.
Yeah.
Okay? And there's a hacker out there.
Yeah.
And instead of sending an email from me, what looks like comes from me, it might say Jeff Middleton on it.
Yes.
It may say it comes from Lantium, or it may have Lantium in the name, but it's actually slightly different. It's coming from somewhere else, but it looks like me. And it says, Siphana, you really need to take a look at this quick.
Okay.
Click, you're done. You click on it and you're done.
And then
they're in.
They're in.
They're at least into your computer.
Yeah.
And particularly they target C-level executives, business owners, because they have access to the crown jewels. So that's what they go for, and they try to trick you. So once they trick you, now they begin to say, okay, well, what does this network look like? And what is inside? They already may know what they're looking for, but they may not. They may just be going through discovery mode, and this may take a month or 2 months. Now, if it's just plain ransomware, maybe it'll take a few days, and they discover, or less, and they figure, okay, well, here's the important data on the server. Here's some accounting information. Let's lock this up. They lock it up, and then you receive an email.
Yes.
It says, here, send the money here.
Yes. But that go to the issue of regulatory framework. In this case, in a normal physical ransom, you go to the police.
Right.
And the police will step in.
Which you can.
Yeah. But in this case, a country that do not have a cybercrime law, where do we go?
It's a good question. Usually you go to your backup. Hopefully you have a backup. But if you're going to try to catch the bad guys, it's going to be very, very difficult. And
because they're not from here.
They're not from here. Oh, they could be, but they're probably not. There are certain places where there are a lot of them. But they could be anywhere. And I'll give you an example. Even the U.S. FBI, I don't think they'll really look at a case if it's less than $50,000 US that was stolen.
Yes.
They really, there's just too much.
It's just too much out there.
Yeah. They can't handle. They don't have enough manpower.
Yeah. So in this case, when I speak about legislative framework, it wouldn't go that far. It would just more preventive measure, how company should do the minimum to protect, because it's a lot to do with consumer protection.
Exactly. And it's the same things as you see why they create regulations for stock trading, public offerings for businesses, banking. Regulations. There are certainly a lot of regulations there. And it's the same kind of thing. It's just an added layer on top that's now required.
But you speak about banking. Does banking, the threshold must be very high?
Yeah, banks are the number one target. They're huge. Them and retailers and medical.
But in banking, they should have a very sophisticated protection.
Some do, but even, you can't sit back and say, oh, I've spent millions of dollars on cybersecurity, so I must be safe.
Yes.
Or I haven't been hacked before, so I must be safe. These are really myths. Everybody will get breached at some point because there isn't a door that can't be broken down. There isn't a lock that can't be picked.
It's quite worrisome.
It is, but there are things that you can do and stay vigilant.
Yes. Now, what would you advise? What would you share here? Because my audience is quite a wide public, right? And I'm trying to aim a lot to help young entrepreneurs. Of course, the big bank, they probably will like you say, they will spend $1 million to get the expertise, that sort of thing. But to me, how do we help, smaller business, which is in Cambodia mostly they're still small, relative size, right, as compared to Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, it's still small. But a crime is a crime, losing $50,000 is $50,000. That could make them bankrupt, What would you, advise them to do in terms of a preemptive measure?
Sure. I would absolutely advise them to speak to a consultant, a security consultant. You can start with your IT people. They may know some.
Yes.
But start with a consultant. Just get the conversation started, and they can give you an idea of what it is that you can start to be, thinking about. And once you have at least a rudimentary program started, you're at least on the way to getting to a point where your risk profile is reduced greatly. Just a little bit actually can go very far. Now, I'm not sure there's any cyber insurance yet available for Cambodia specifically.
Out there in other countries, they have cyber insurance?
There is cyber insurance, okay, which is generally a recommendation after doing all the required things that need to be done to secure your and lower your risk profile. There is cyber insurance. I know you can buy cyber insurance for Cambodia. It's kind of ad hoc at this point.
I see.
And actually, it's very difficult. Let's just say the prices are all over the place because there really aren't actuarial tables on all of this. So, but you can get coverage in case of a breach for down business, for lost business to a certain extent, and it could cover, for example, some forensic work, remediation, and some PR, because that's usually the worst thing that happens to you is the PR damage, public relations.
Yes. But, okay, sure. I mean, if you want to buy insurance, it's great if it's available, right? And if it's not available, you have to outsource this some other places, which can be quite expensive, I must say, if you don't have actual work already in place. But, it seems like the more we talk about it, the more the scope is so large, right? You are now venturing into area that we are not even thinking about it. I didn't even know that there's a cybercrime insurance, this sort of thing. What other thing we as a nation should be proactively, looking at other country, as a first step to identify?
So as a nation, I think it's important that you encourage your own development of professionals.
Yes.
Malaysia's working on this, of course Singapore's working on this, and I imagine Cambodia will as well.
Yes.
Because you really need to develop a core group of individuals, and Cambodia is really set to do it. You have a lot of young people here who are eager to learn.
Yes.
They speak English.
Yes.
And many of them very, very well, which is a big plus when you're learning.
Yes.
And I think a little bit of money often goes a long way in helping these out. I know the Singapore government is quite supportive. I don't think every country can afford to do what they do.
Yes.
In support of their citizens, but generally, at least the start and the awareness would really, really go a long way.
So capacity building from the get-go in this field of cybersecurity is one of the recommendations that you think as a country we should take.
Actually, and it takes a long time too. So, for example, even new professionals that are coming out today, they get certified ethical hacker certifications, defender certifications. That's good. These are great people that we can use for our high-level consultants who have 10, 15 years in the cybersecurity arena to help guide them, and they can learn from us. But it's just like any craft. Yeah, it's going to take 5 years, 10 years to really, really become well seasoned.
Yes. Are there specialized schools that's out there? I mean, of course, in Cambodia, when we talk about IT training, we talk about software development, we talk about stuff that are more commercial things, game, that sort of thing, outsourcing. But these are specialized course, specialized class, specialized school.
Absolutely, and there are individual classes and coursework for particular things, for penetration testing, for example, internal, external, risk assessment and management, as well as forensics. And so there are a number of fields that you can go into.
And who would offer this course?
So often private companies through in Singapore, there's a lot of government support through private businesses offering these, as well as universities also as well. Sure. These are all new courses added.
Well, Jeff, you should be thinking of having a school for that.
Yes.
I mean, working with some university to have a specialized thing like this. I mean, I'm pretty sure the interest will be very strong. I'm just suggesting.
No, that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we're certainly interested in maybe coming out doing some seminars.
Yes.
As well, just to get things
just
started.
To raise the awareness, right?
Exactly.
Because I can tell you, not many people are thinking that far. We think more about physical, sort of like breach, physical violation,
Right.
But we are nowhere near thinking, as far as that, because you see, it's a lot to do with stigma. From the many anecdotal story that I've been told, people feel very ashamed to say, "Oh my God, I got cheat." But they use the word cheat, right? But it's not cheat. It's not cheat, because cheat is when you're aware that you did you did really fall prey into this trick, right? But here you don't know.
Right.
Right? And they're very embarrassed to say, I lost $50,000, I lost $100,000 from that, right?
Right.
Because, it's a stigma that your friend would say, you're so dumb.
Right.
So these are, awareness is very important to build that. No, guys, it's not. You're not cheat. You just been hacked, you've been breached.
Exactly. And it happens to everybody.
Yes.
At some point.
Good. Okay, so we're gonna take another break, and then when we come back, we're gonna. I want to look a bit to the future. What can we do, and concretely at a different level, so that at least Cambodia will not be so far behind as our other ASEAN countries. Good.
Great.
Well, Jeff, Cambodia is full of young people. They are craving for knowledge. They are English. They're good in English as compared to neighbor, because basically Cambodia have our language have all the tonality, and that's why when you talk to a Cambodian, it's very easy for us to emulate sound. I could speak English with a Vietnamese accent, or a Thai accent, a French accent. So Cambodia are very good at language. So you have that. Now you have also the development, a very fast development of the IT ecosystem, right? Our 4G is there. Now we have company who are setting up a cloud data center. We can start hosting in the country. The internet penetration is very high. The last count is we have about 19 million SIM card out there, okay? So maybe less people, because some people may have two phones, right?
Sure.
But how I see this is a sort of ecosystem in the building up, right? Here I'm trying to lead to employment, because all these young kids graduate from high school, they go to university, vocational training, for them, they never thought that they could be venturing into a career where they can be chief information security officer. No, I don't think so. I mean, from talking to you for the last half hour, I don't think so. But it is an employment, a career opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I mean, yes, please, could you just expand a bit on this?
Yeah, again, there is a huge shortage of cybersecurity professionals at all levels in the world, and it's just increasing and increasing, because let's face it, there are more and more systems out there, there's more and more data out there, so there are more and more targets. So it is important that a country develop it as early as possible. again, it takes time to get the seasoned professionals. It could take 5 years, 10 years, and the sooner you get started, the better. And particularly if you can concentrate in this field, it will benefit Cambodia, but it'll benefit countries everywhere, particularly if Cambodia could become basically a source for these types of professionals.
So it's to me, I always think that Cambodia is in the ASEAN Economic Community now, kind of country, but it's larger than that because we already, ASEAN is, having development partner with Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand. So we're more than just Southeast Asia. We are the East Asia. I mean, that's the ultimate goal of this regional integration. And the one thing that the Cambodia can do, is no different if a Singaporean can come to Cambodia. Why not Cambodia go to another country, right?
Absolutely.
And in a certain field, you can skip the learning curve very fast, right? With the right training, with the right specialization, you can skip the learning curve, right? So why not encourage? Why not promote, IT security as one of the branch of career development? And this could be one of the things that I am very excited about it.
Absolutely, and it's easily outsourced to other countries. Particularly professionals, at least from the external side, can reside in the country here, and they could do the work anywhere in the country, or anywhere in the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just like IT work is outsourced, often India is sort of the king of it for offshoring.
Yes.
But when it comes to cybersecurity, there isn't any one particular country at this point that has a complete lock on it.
That's quite a revelation. I mean, so I'm serious when I say that, Jeff, you should be considering something along that line. I think
Sure.
I'm pretty sure you will get a lot of support from the government also, because let's face it, government also have a strong need now that the country is developed. We are very much a player in the regional context. Data, government official data, is also extremely important. Not just private sector data. Our communication, could be hacked, could be as well like intercept, that sort of thing, and you would need people that could help put in place a system to at least to make sure that our official communication is not hacked.
For sure. Particularly government is vulnerable to infrastructure, and as Cambodia builds up more and more infrastructure, there's more and more risk with that.
By infrastructure, you mean digital infrastructure?
No, could be physical as well.
Oh yeah?
Power plants.
Okay, yeah.
Traffic control devices.
Yes.
All these things could be taken over by hackers and ransomed or just damaged. And a lot of people don't realize that 60% of the hacks come from nation states, state actors. So,
state actor, you mean they hit the state actor?
No, they're responsible. They come from particularly foreign governments.
Yes, okay.
Are either performing, doing the hacking, or they are condoning the hackers, allowing them to operate.
Okay. But then they go after the major target, right? Like you say, if a power plant is hacked, they could shut down the power plant.
Exactly.
Quite. So these are more worrisome than just me as a company or a small company get the data hacked.
Particularly,
right?
even
it's a national security issue.
It absolutely is. And even you saw the Philippine elections. What
happened?
The Philippine Election Commission was hacked.
Yes.
Where I think it was like 90 million voters' information was released.
Wow.
So it's a problem. Even in the United States now, Department of Homeland Security wants to say that the federal elections are now a national security issue, so that they want more control over it, which has caused some problems in the U.S. with a number of libertarians. But in any case, it's important that, of course, that elections anywhere are known to be fair.
Yes, yes. What are the example of this national, thing like that, other hack in other country? What are the,
So a good example, though, often it's particularly United States defense contractors are targeted. Particularly one business, Nortel, pretty much was put out of business by Chinese hackers, and they were there for years, gathering information.
Yes.
And that helped out their telecom industry quite a bit.
Yes. And then the company out of business because there's no trust?
No, they lost the intellectual property. So they had an advantage on technology, and they lost it because the Chinese were able to catch up.
Yes, yes.
Through the theft of these particular devices.
So all this IP, related to theft, intellectual property protection, that sort of thing. Wow, it's quite a mind-boggling thing. Well, I think that the more we talk about it, the more we say, oh my God, it's more than just this a business. It can be elevated to a national security issue. It can be elevated to things that affect, our daily life. I mean, I can't imagine if the traffic control, all this light is blinking out of sync, this traffic accident, that sort of thing,
Exactly.
Power plant,
trains,
water treatment, train.
And we saw what happened with the Vietnam airport.
Yes, yeah, 2 days. It was not 2 days, right? It's just short time, right?
It was a short time, but
it's a total disruption.
Yeah, total disruption.
Yeah, okay.
And of course that affects all flights in and out.
Yes.
And
so these are good example, real example.
Yeah, airline systems are particularly vulnerable because airlines have been basically electronic. They were pretty much the first industry to go electronic.
Yeah,
so their systems
because of the connections.
Right, because of the connections. So their systems are all very, very old, and what they really need is a complete rewrite of their systems, but that's way too expensive to do. So they keep adding on and cobbling together and adding on, and of course each time
Band-Aid approach.
Band-Aid approach.
Yes.
And with each Band-Aid approach, you have a vulnerability potential.
Yeah.
So
it's quite exciting. Well, we're almost coming to the end of our show, and I must say the more we talk about cybersecurity, the more I realize it's going to take more than 45 minutes.
Yes, sure.
Yes, but anyway, I want to give you, a last opportunity to pass a message, to the audience, and maybe give them some awareness message, what they should do, at least preemptive move, to help them, at least protect their life, their company, their institution better.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
A couple of basic things. Don't go put financial information on any website that isn't HTTPS at least. Make sure that email that comes in is actually from someone you know or your vendor. They are very, very sophisticated and very, very tricky. These are two of the most basic things that you can do that will cut out a huge amount of risk for you.
All right. So, basic stuff, but it could save your company from being ransom or, so like some case could be bankrupt. Well, anyway, I want to wrap up the session by saying that this is a new area of, or another word I could say is the dark side of globalization. And globalization have a lot of great things. But it always comes, it's like the hand, you have this side and that side, and it's from one hand. And the cybercrime is part of the dark side of how I see the, globalization of information where, the bulk of it is all positive, we have access to information that we would never dream to have before in the last 20 some years. But we also have this thing that come along with it, which is this connectivity, the dark side of connectivity. But there are measures you can do as a person, as a company, as a country. Also, there are opportunity for us to take, upstream measure, to help prevent this sort of thing. And the one thing I draw out of this conversation with Jeff is that we have to build our capacity of our young, capable Cambodian IT savvy, to have them look as a career opportunity, as an employment opportunity, as a specialist job, that there is an opportunity for them to have a future, a bright future, if I can say, but at the same time helping also the nation to be prepared against this cyber attack. I think if there's one thing I can draw from this, is that one thing here, and I just want to say, Jeff, it's quite an eye-opening for this show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.